Hello, and welcome to another episode of Solipsist Watched. I'm your host, the Social Solipsist, and this week I watched Thoroughbreds from 2017. Where do I even start with this film? I guess I'll start with saying I quite liked it. That's a good place to, as good a place to start as any, I suppose. Because it's going to be hard to talk about this film, and I desperately don't want to talk about the plot. So let's talk about how it was marketed first, because that actually gets into how I found out about the film. Now, if you're anything like me, you cannot stand advertising. It makes you want to claw your eyes and ears out, off and out. And you do everything in your power to avoid it. Well, about the time it was coming up upon release in 2017, somehow an advertisement slipped through to me and I saw it. And the trailer for the film, the one that I saw, there may be more than one, is fucking awful. It is okay. It's decently assembled. It is completely a lie, though. Not only in that it contains footage that isn't in the film, but also that the tone is 100% wrong and the framing is 100% wrong. And they do that thing. They do. I hate movie trailers in general, but this one is especially egregious. Because it basically, literally on the screen in the trailer, tells you the quote unquote plot in text, except it's wrong. Because whoever wrote that synopsis was just completely, like, it is in the most, it is technically not entirely inaccurate. It's just completely whoever wrote it completely misses the point of the film. And it is nothing new for a film to have a bad trailer or bad marketing that is a lie about the content of the film itself. But especially for a film of this size, I don't understand why they did that. This film was made supposedly for about $5 million and only grossed about $3 million in the box office, so did not do well. And I don't know whether to blame the trailer or not, or, I mean, I could speculate all day, but if you're not, I don't know, unless the expectation was maybe we can trick a whole bunch of people into watching this film accidentally and getting something different and they'll like it anyway. I really don't understand why they did that. There's ones that I get, like the, what do you call it? The Suicide Squad trailer, which that trailer is, well, it's not good, but it is a desperate attempt, and very successful one at that, to get people to watch a film that is trash by cutting it up to pieces and presenting it as something else. This one I just don't understand. Frankly, with that budget, I'm surprised they even went to the effort. But anyway, I digress. The character. Let me talk about the actors first and foremost. The characters are all fantastic. There are not that many of them. There's really three main characters, played by Olivia Cooke, Anya Taylor-Joy, and the late Anton Yelchin. This is his final film, actually. And they all put on incredible performances. Very subtle and quiet and careful performances, but powerful ones that get across a lot of that subtlety in a shockingly good way. All three of them being quite young. I think Anton Yelchin was in his 30s. The other two, I think, are both in their 20s or were at the time. Fairly, not novice actors, but, not a huge number of films under their belts. Anyway, they all do a fantastic job. This is the first thing I've seen. I've never seen Olivia Cooke in anything. I've never seen Anya Taylor-Joy in anything, but she is in a couple of other films that are also in my library, on my list. And she does a great job. And unfortunately, the only thing I've seen Anton Yelchin in, despite the fact that it turns out he's also in some films on my list, the only thing I've seen him in is the Star Trek reboot movies, which I can't remember here or otherwise whether I've expressed my opinion on them, but I generally have a lot of problems with them. And as Chekhov, he's fine. I mean, the movies aren't directed very well, so it's hard to even have the opportunity to put on a good performance. But anyway, this is the first thing I've seen him in where he, I think, properly has a character and isn't just like a pastiche of a stereotype from the 60s. Anyway, I digress. Anton Yelchin does an incredible job and makes me understand a little better some of what some folks said upon his passing about it's always awful when somebody young dies in an accident, but I mean, having only seen him as Chekhov, some of the words about his acting prowess seemed hyperbolic to me. But after seeing him here, very impressive performance. Will certainly push up some of the other things he's in that I've been meaning to watch. Anyway, they all do a fantastic job. The minor characters, of which there are only a few, also do a perfectly serviceable to great job. On the whole, I think a lot of that is to the credit of the script as well, because this movie on the whole is fairly quiet and conservative with its dialogue and lets the acting speak for the characters. And obviously that can be a challenge for any actor to get across the feelings, the senses of the reactions of their character in nonverbal means. Obviously, that's what you want from every actor, but not every actor. There's a lot of actors in Hollywood, a lot of very successful actors who are very bad at that. So through a combination of a very good script, I'll get to that in a second, a very good script and some very good acting, it turns out an incredible film, in my opinion. I only finished it 15 minutes ago, as I usually do with these things. Anyway, so my feelings may mellow on it, but I'm very impressed. The story itself is not that complex. In fact, I would even call it simple. But those other things that I've already mentioned, about the characterization and the dialogue and the delivery and all these other things really makes it. I want to particularly note that this is a first-time director, Corey Finley, who originally wrote this script as a stage play, which can go bad. It can go well or it can go badly. But not only is this a good transition, it's a good film on its own. I can also see how it would make a great stage play. Um, and handing even for a small budget film, handing the a stage writer the directorship would be, I think, a tenuous uh, suggestion at best in most cases. But Finley really knocks it out of the park with the directorship on this. It has some great direction in it. And it's not afraid to be not experimental, but like to focus on the artistry of the framing and take long takes and not in a way that feels like, not in that film school sort of way where I'm like, where film school students are like, oh well, Scorsese does oneers, so I'm gonna do a bunch of oneers in my film. They're genuinely really like, there's some great direction. The camera is really a character in and of itself that has this very sort of voyeuristic view of the various characters in these largely very intimate scenes, intimate settings, things spoken in hushed tones. But every once in a while it takes a little turn of its own where you I apologize for the sirens in the background if you can hear that. The camera will go off on its own and remind you that it is a character in and of itself, where it's not locked to any given character or to any of the characters. It will just sort of wander off and go look at something. And that could be, I know I'm sort of not being really specific here, but I don't want to spoil anything. But it does it in a very meaningful way that reminds me in a number of ways of David Fincher's camera direction. I'm very impressed. The use of lighting and focus and zoom and all these other things are used with a deftness that I would not expect. I would not expect out of any first-time director, let alone one who was a screenwriter trying to sell his theater production writer trying to sell a theater script. So I'm blown away by that. If I had one complaint, it's that I wish they had just taken it a little bit further, because I think it's incredible. I think it's got some incredible shots in it. And I would say the first half of the film has most of the best shots and most of the best camera work, but the rest of the film is quite good as well. Shot quite well as well. The settings for the various locations, there aren't that many locations, but in relation to the camera work, well, let me talk about the wardrobe and the settings at the same time, which is that you got in how I was talking about before, where a lot of the story is told in a nonverbal manner. The things that the characters wear and the way they hold themselves and the places they are and how they position themselves in rooms, on furniture, all these other things are obviously incredibly important. and are done very, very well. And most, I mean, I'm trying to think how many. There's only a few locations. I won't say how many, but the use of the natural lighting in any given room is impressively well done. The sets are dressed such that the lighting is incredibly natural, and the shots are, again, it's a very voyeuristic view where um, another film might try and fill the room with more light or try and remove some of the hard shadows from a room, or just generally turn on some more lamps or something, even if it was in a naturalistic way. Um, the film sort of it does a great job using exactly what it, well, this is more of a general thing about the film as a whole. It uses exactly the minimum that it needs and nothing more. And I really appreciate that about its presentation. Because I think it gets the viewer deeper inside the psyche of the characters, and understanding how they're feeling and where they are. The audio as well is, again, very sparingly used. I think there's only like 2 pieces of music in the entire, well, there's only 2 like actual music, non-composed music pieces in the film, and there's like only 2 or maybe 3 other pieces that were composed for the film, and they are weird, but they really feed into the feeling of the film very well. And then there's some weird non-diegetic sound effects that are used, that are like a little weird at first, just because they're not what you would necessarily expect. But I think generally speaking, they do a really good job of standing in where another film or a less artistically inclined director might have it filled with a piece of music. Again, just the only using the minimum necessary to get the vision through is something I really appreciate. As far as what this film is, it's hard to talk about without. I know I said at the beginning, talking about the trailer for it and all that it's not what the trailer suggests. I don't really know how to classify it. It blends a lot of different aspects. I'm actually just staring at the. I'm not sure which of the posters I'm going to put up on the video, but the one I'm looking at right now has a whole bunch of quotes from reviewers that are 100% wrong. Because there's like one of them says American Psycho meets Heathers, which is just, I cannot tell you how wrong that is. As like, that's genuinely upsetting to read. There's a bunch of others that say it's like wickedly funny, which it's not. It is not. It's funny, but it is it's a black comedy in only the most subtle of ways. It is too meticulous to be that funny, and uh, the characters couldn't possibly make for a funny film. Not in a positive, not a good funny film. Um, Ultimately, I think I'm gonna avoid trying to put a particular label on it and say that it's a movie about a bunch of damaged people trying to figure themselves out. And struggling with their relationships to the world around them and their own issues. Yeah. This got kind of rambly, but that's okay. That's what we're here for. I'm very impressed with this film. I'm very glad I finally watched it. I find it hard to compare to many other things. Actually, the thing that comes to mind that I would compare it most to, although it's, very different in tone, is The Favorite that I watched some weeks ago. There's some similarities there. So if you watch The Favorite, watch this and then let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about The Favorite first. But I recommend you watch this whether you watch that or not. Just be aware that it's not, it's slow and quiet and subtle, and it wants you to sink into the experience that the characters are having. And I think it's pretty wonderful in that way. Anyway, thank you guys for watching another episode of Solipsist Watched. Leave your thoughts. Let me know if you watched it. Let me know if you've watched it before this, what your thoughts are. I think it's a real shame that this didn't do very well. I can certainly understand why it would not be for a lot of people, that a lot of people either wouldn't get it or wouldn't be into it. But I really like it, and it is not so bizarre or so niche that it couldn't have done better at the box office than it did. So that's somebody else's fault, not the fault of the film. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Leave me your comments, and I'll see you guys next time.